Hello everyone and welcome to Beelzebub's Buns channel. Today we are playing Battlefield 4. I've enjoyed playing Rush on hardcore mode in this game, so we are playing Rush hardcore on Zavod 311. This map works really well for this game type. Nothing like going into a big building and laying waste to those defending the building. On the other hand, if you are defending, it is so much fun to set up your defenses and start laying rounds towards the attackers. Over the years of playing Battlefield 4, I favored hardcore a lot. I'm sure it's the ambiguity of your enemy's whereabouts and the ways of traversing a map. You have a sense of getting into cover and concealment a lot quicker, and a sense of looking out for your avenues of approach. This is especially apparent when you are playing Rush and you are on the defensive end. But what hardcore mode offers to you is a sense of survival. Knowing that you can take fewer bullets and a 7.62 round can really do damage onto your opponents or damage onto yourself if you're getting shot by one. Your 5.56 rounds will obviously go quicker, so there are great advantages to that. Flying a helicopter feels like it does the right amount of damage in a hardcore mode. Just a nice quick burst of your machine gun and you end up killing somebody. Also, I would like to point out with the map disabled, it adds to a new way of playing. It kind of falls back on what I was saying, checking your avenues of approach every so often. But when you run from one building to another, and you are out in the open for just a few seconds, it could feel as though someone is about to pull the trigger as they've got you in their crosshairs at that very time. It is okay to gamble a bit in hardcore mode, but you won't see many people make as many bonehead decisions as you might in other modes. Nonetheless, Battlefield 4 definitely got better with time. I was worried that this game would fall off on the deep end when it was released. The game was terrible when it was released. Nothing would even load correctly. Now, I'm not just talking about connection issues. The game looked like it was still in development as you would start up the game. But now we are past that and Battlefield is a great game to go back on. Yes, it is set heavily on multiplayer, but I want to talk about the campaign for a second. To me, a great game has a great campaign and a great multiplayer. The only game I knew back then that had great multiplayer without a campaign was, well, Counter-Strike. But nowadays, as games start to lavish out the multiplayer in hopes of better sales and players coming back to play it with great replay value, some campaigns just fall short. Very short. So this campaign and Battlefield 4 is a perfect example. I've never really felt like I was going to fall asleep while playing a campaign in a video game until I started playing Battlefield 4. But let's not talk all negative. I bring this up so it can help us think about what would be great to see in the next Battlefield. But let's start off with the time period of what would be nice to see in the next Battlefield. Everyone has an opinion and many of those would be great to implement. So here goes my opinion. Now, history does tend to repeat itself. What we had in the early 2000s when Medal of Honor blew us away on the beaches of Normandy, no pun intended, that's pretty messed up now that I think about that, but with Medal of Honor Frontline, that looked amazing at that time. And after a few more Medal of Honor set in World War II, then what came out, which was once called as a codename, Medal of Honor Killer. Can you guess what that was? Call of Duty. Once the Call of Duty game series started, it kicked it off with many of the Call of Duty games set in World War II. For the first several years from the original release in 2003 to the Call of Duty 2 as a launch release for the Xbox 360 in late 2005, which we also welcomed another World War II series in that year, the beloved Brothers in Arms. Afterwards, in 2006, was the launch of Call of Duty 3. And then they wrapped it up with the World War II theme with World at War, released in 2008. A very great game, I thought. So if history repeats itself, hear this out. I'm sure a lot of Battlefield fans would love to see a World War II theme in the next Battlefield. The realism the game offers in regards to the bullets whizzing by, the more methodical gameplay, the sheer destruction, and the use of all sorts of vehicles, this would be fantastic. I was thinking of another Vietnam style for the next Battlefield, like they released with Battlefield Bad Company 2 in late 2010, but that idea sort of moved past as I thought of all the cool things that they could do with the World War II game. Now, perhaps Call of Duty can go back to a Vietnam style, maybe do away with the crazy future stuff and go back to a more authentic Vietnam type of game, emphasize on the brutality with major tweaks to the game engine. But that's just a thought. So what do you guys think? Now that we have covered the theme of the next Battlefield game, let's talk about the campaign and what it could offer. It is good to know the history on certain video game series so the next one can be truly the best of the best. So let's go back to 2005 again. A game called Battlefield 2 Modern Combat came out. Now let's just get down and dirty with the campaign. You didn't have a crazy complex story. You were told of your mission with a number of objectives, and this was a mission briefing, so obviously they weren't going to make it complex. So whether you would capture, destroy, whatever you did, as long as you did it, you would succeed. This formula here is a great sandbox type of gameplay. Not only would you start a mission typically with a lot of soldiers or marines, but you would have the ability to look at an icon above your teammate's head, and when it changed color, I believe it was from blue to white, you would press the activation button on your controller and your camera would zoom over to that teammate, and you would start to play as them right at that point, whatever they were doing, if they were in a firefight, or if they were running towards an objective, or if they were behind a wall about to snipe somebody. You can take control of whoever you wanted on your team as many times as you wanted. No enemy movement was scripted either. Well, to a certain degree. There was no too much of the same, but a great challenge nonetheless. You could control vehicles if they were available in the mission, which a lot of missions they were available. It was a true Battlefield. No mission with 2 or 3 other squad mates. Let's leave that to a Rainbow Six game, a squad type of game, not a game slapped with the label named Battlefield. Let's make it a Battlefield. The campaign we had in Battlefield 4, you were running around with a few of your guys and taking on quantities of nearly 20 enemies a section. Let's get back to a true Battlefield feel and open up the battle space. Incorporate a bit of the multiplayer in the campaign. If we really need some linear levels that are heavily scripted, then let's have it be every other level if we are trying to get a story across. But as most fans would agree, going back to this is that Battlefield is and will always be a multiplayer game. So, with that said, if somebody wants to play the campaign portion to a Battlefield game, let's make it a multiplayer feel, but able to control all of your teammates. A large-scale Battlefield, enjoyable online or offline. Here I'll have to retrograde back and start using my mortars. I love using my mortars. You feel so accomplished if you actually get somebody. I'm not going to get anybody in this section as my team is assaulting, but I hear somebody coming up. So I got to lay waste to a couple of these guys here. But I love the fact that you can support your team from a distance as well. I think the game works really well for that. We are about to get B. We just need to get A after that. But this is the last section, and then we will win if we get these 2 objectives. So finally get somebody over here. That's going to help out a little bit. Maybe they were sniping, whatever the case was. Able to push through. Imagine assaulting a World War II base like this with an M1 Garand in your hand and the awesome graphics and the great explosions. It would just be so much fun. You know, with a Thompson, you're in there shredding them to pieces, or you're on the German side and you got your MP40. Either way, I think World War II theme would look so good at this point since it's been so long. We may hear more news about the next Battlefield that's coming out here soon. It would have to release this year if they want to stay competitive, really. But is it going to be World War II? Honestly, I highly doubt it. Would I like for it to be? Oh yeah, definitely. But we'll have to see. We'll have to take what we get, and it's, you know, I'm sure it's going to be great. It's going to be a lot of new things that's going to be incorporated with the new Battlefield. Whatever the next Battlefield will be, I'm sure it's going to generate hundreds to thousands to millions of gameplay hours. So this has been Beelzebub's Buns channel here. Thank you for watching. If you liked it, leave a like and go ahead and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next video.